U.S. Catholic bishops on persons with disabilities video response. So the first question is, why does the Lord call the church to have concern for and serve individuals with disabilities? In what ways does Jesus exemplify this call? So I said the disabled are just as part of the church as anyone else. They are our brothers and sisters in Christ. God went to preach and love to those that were on the fringe of society, and we must do the same. Everybody has a role in the church, and we must accept everyone for who they are. So that's what I said for the first one. That's what we're called to do. It's what the Lord calls the church to do, and it's a lot easier said than done, but just following his example really is like a good way to start. It's like a good starting point. Question number 2, in what ways do you feel the pastoral statement could be updated and revised? Share at least 2 ways you would like to see the pastoral statements improved. So I felt like parts of it were pretty general and not specific with like what we can do. So I said, go into more detail about how we can all be more accepting. How can we show members of the church with disabilities that they are loved and that they belong? And then the second one is kind of more of a question, but it was like, when a family finds out that they have a disabled child, how can we all be there for them? Because there's the classic, like, I'll pray for you, like, let me know if there's anything I can do. But what can we actually do that, like, will make it, I mean, I don't know if anything can make it better, but to kind of ease the blow a little bit. So those were the 2 suggestions for improvements and updating the pastoral statement. And then question 3, the pastoral statement includes the following 2 statements. They're really long, so I'm not going to read them. But the question is, reflecting on your experience, what is your response to these statements? Do you feel as though the church does a good job with the outreach and discipleship of individuals with disabilities? How have you seen this demonstrated within the church? In what ways do you think the church could grow in this way? At least in my parish, we don't have books with Braille. We don't have people that sign to the deaf. There aren't a whole lot of accommodations. There might be like a row in the back where people can sit in their wheelchairs, but even that I wouldn't know where that's located. So I definitely think that there are a lot of ways that the church can improve as far as like having books that have Braille and just like I mentioned before, like having people sign. And it's important that the families of the disabled, like the people that have disabilities, are in contact with the church and can figure out like what they need so the church can better meet the needs of those individuals and help the families out. So just having that open line of communication, I think, is really important. Sorry, 1 second, reading this. Yeah, so it basically answers question 3. And then the last question, what did you find to be most interesting about the pastoral statement? So I thought it was really interesting how it talked about prejudice, because it's difficult when you see someone who's, I mean, even just like dresses differently than you, and then people who are blind. It's like it's difficult to know what to do in those situations and to like not be weird. But I just thought it was really interesting. I'm going to read a little part of it. Prejudice starts with the simple perception of difference, whether that difference is physical or psychological. Down through the ages, people have tended to interpret these differences in crude moral terms. Our group is not just different from theirs, it is better in some vague but compelling way. Few of us would admit to being prejudiced against persons with disabilities. We bear these people no ill will and do not knowingly seek to abrogate their rights. Yet disabled individuals are visibly, sometimes bluntly different from the norm, and we react to this difference. Whether we realize it or not. Even if we do not look down upon persons with disabilities, we tend all to often think of them as somehow apart and not completely one of us. So I thought that was really interesting, because as I was reading it, I'm like, it's very hard to know what to do in those situations, and it's hard to know how to be accepting and how to act. Do you bring it up? Do you acknowledge it? Do you ask them if there's any way that you can help them out? So I thought that was really interesting, because it's we don't look down on people with disabilities, but it is very visible that it's like something's different. So I don't know, I was reading through the whole thing and that kind of popped out at me for some reason. I thought it was interesting. So yeah, that answers that. Have a good week.